Hello everyone, welcome back again. So in the continuation of our communication series, we have been doing barriers of communication. So today our next barrier is organizational barriers. So students, let's begin without any delay and see the characteristics of organizational barriers. See, organizational barrier is not that barrier that individually exists. Organizational barrier is the collection of different classification of barriers, as I earlier told you, like the physical barriers, the psychological barriers, personal barriers, semantic barriers. So here the categorization of organizational barrier exists because the collection of all these barriers. See, organizational barrier, if I define in a very simple form, it means that those barriers occur at the organizational levels are known as the organizational barrier. So simple it is. So here in the organization, there is the collection of different kinds of barriers occur due to different kinds of situations and circumstances. So it will be called organizational barrier because these barriers falls under the category of organization. Right, you as you know that in the organization there are diverse of people work together. Every individual has their own perception, and the every individual has their own cultural, religious, as well as the language background. So if these barriers occur at that social level where the diverse communication happens, so it will be called as the organizational barrier. So here I am going to define again the importance of organizational barrier and why generally it exists. See, I am highlighting it, so please do listen it very carefully. Various functions and activities of organizations are only possible through communication. Though it is very much true, like if you wanted to run an organization in a very smooth manner and you wanted that there should not be any kind of communication gap, or your work of the organization just progresses. So we need various activities to do to complete, right? So execution of all those activities, see, organization is totally based upon the activities purpose. So all these activities is going to be executed only possible through communication, right? So when this communication hampered by different factors in the organization is called organizational structure barrier. So here the different factors are like might be imagine, see, all these the execution of the activities might be hampered due to the semantic barriers, due to the physical barrier, due to the psychological or the personal barrier. So what happened? So it is going to affect the process of communication, right? If it affect the process of communication within the organization, then it is going to be called the organizational barrier. So once again I let you clear that organizational barrier is not a very different kind of barrier like the psychological, personal or the physical, but it is the collection of different classification of barriers in one whole, right? Like means all these barriers or the classification of barriers occur at one roof at the under the organizational barrier. I hope it is clear. So let's move to the root causes of organizational barrier. So now let's see the root causes of organizational barrier. So here I am going to repeat it again. So whatever the root causes at this time you are seeing at your screen, so these root causes are on the basis of the classification of the general barriers which I described you earlier, right? See the fear and status. I hope you remember that this especially the fear and status occur at which classification of barriers. So the fear and status occur at the part of the personal barrier as well as the psychological barrier. So why it is written, why all these root causes are written in the organizational barrier, as we already learned all these barriers under the difference of classification. So the answer will be because it is occurring at one place, occurring at the organizational level where the situation is completely diverse in nature. So here we are giving, see, organization is giving a platform to all these barriers, we can say in this way. So if it is giving the platform to all these barriers, so the occurrence of barriers occur, so it will be called as the organizational barrier, right? Now we are going to see the learn the fear and status. As I told you that the fear and strata has a very adverse effect on the mind of the sender as well as the receiver. If this the fear of the status occurs at both the levels, right? It might be occur at the part of the sender, or it might be occur at the part of the receiver. If the sender thinks that the receiver belongs to the very high strata as well as having very authoritative in nature, so sender get very much discursive in communication, right? Like what should I say, what should I not say, means to say that sender is going to try to impress the receiver, like with the thoughts that is liked by the receiver only. Here the sender might hide the actual and the original thoughts because of the fear of the status of the receiver. So same goes to the receiver part, right? The same situation goes to the receiver part. So this will happen. So it will be fall under the organizational barrier, as it generally happens many time at the organization. You know, as the organization is the collection of the different kinds of hierarchies, so we can't say that it doesn't exist. Definitely it does exist. Second one is very much important. Now I'm highlighting it. See, here it is written one-sided communication then and the downward communication. Just imagine if you are working at the organization and there is only one-sided communication, how it is going to be? It is going to be very much adversely affected, right? See, if we just imagine that in an organization only downward communication exists, as you know very well that downward communication means only the superior has the power to give the directions, as well as the means superior is quite authoritative in nature there, right? Superior is giving instructions, guidance, each and everything, and not getting the feedback from the lower strata, the lower status of the people. So the situation is going to be very much difficult. There is no democratic rule. Like if the subordinate wanted to say something, if the subordinate has some kind of problem, wanted to discuss with the superior, but the superior is not giving an ear to them, right? So the situation is going to be very difficult. So if one-sided communication exists, if only one-sided communication exists or more one-sided communication exists at the organization level, then definitely the barriers will occur. Third one is that multiple channels and too many transfer stations, right? This is a very common barrier occur at the organizational level. See, at the organization there are different of levels, there are different rules and policies, hierarchies of power, different strata, different status, different level of people are working. So there are multiple channels and the too many transfer stations from where we get and impart communication, right? So here one individual have to act very smart, that he is having this smartness that which channel he should rely on for the good communication, for the valid source of information, right? If the person is that much picky or that much smart that he can understand that which transfer of information is good for that, that it is not spreading the rumors or any kind of thing, then definitely the communicator is smart enough to grasp things, and definitely it is going to lesser the hamperness of the communication. Third one is the time, distance and mechanical barriers. So all these time, distance, mechanical barriers falls under the physical barrier. So definitely in the organization barrier, the physical barrier do exist, right? So physical barriers are like the time. If your communication, you are initiating any kind of communication and it is not going to deliver to the receiver at the exact time, at the correct time, at the in the time limit, so definitely the usefulness of communication is going to be lesser. Same goes with the distance, and the third one is the mechanical barrier. So there are different kinds of mechanical barriers, like related to the machine, related to the other status of the people as well as the machineries. So it also falls under the organizational barrier. So at the corner you can see here again the classification has been given: organizational barrier, rules and policies. If in organization the rules and policies are very much rigid in nature, there is no flexibility of talking to each other, there is a lack of cooperation, mutual understanding and the harmony, definitely barriers are going to occur. Next one is the hierarchical position, that also goes to the fear and strata of the people, right? Means the person who is having the more authority is not very much good with the subordinates, then definitely there will be a hamperness in the process of communication. Next one is organizational facilities. So here it means the organization has this responsibility to take care of the rights of the subordinates as well as the superior. So the equal facility should be given to all the employees, so there we know any kind of jealousy, there no be any kind of cold war like situations, right? And the last one is complex organizational structure. It is very much important to understand this thing, that the complex organizational structure means if there is not a flexibility between the superior and the subordinate, right? If the subordinate does not hold the right to share the problems with the superior, if the subordinate does not have this power or this much authority that he could share his personal as well as the professional problems to his superior, means there should be a calmness, there should be a dignity maintained between the superior and the subordinate. Their work atmosphere should be very much cordial with each other, right? So the complex organizational structure also occur as the barrier of the organizational level. So students, we have completed our organizational barrier. In this way we have also completed the general classifications of the barriers of the communication, right? If you found any problem, please let me know. And one thing I would like to share with you all, that in the next communication series we are going to learn the very important thing regarding the barrier, that is the how we are going to overcome the barriers, right? Till now we have read different barriers, what are the root causes, why this barrier occur, what will happen if the barriers occur. Now onwards we are going to see on the next video that how we are going to eradicate all these barriers from of our communication, so our communication get strengthened very much and we became a very good source of information that is going to help in the process of communication, right? Means we can become very much effective communicator if we are going to follow the rules as well as the ways to overcome all these minor and the major barriers. So it is very much important to first know what are the kinds of barrier, so it get easier to know that what we should avoid it to get the smooth and very clean communication, and to become a very much good initiator as well as the receiver of the communication. So students, that's all for today's lecture. I hope you like it. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you students.